Hi, I'm Pattu from freefincal. I was looking at the performance of Nifty Next 50 with respect to Nifty 50 and Midcap 150, and I noticed that the Midcap 150 has bet the Nifty Next 50 for the first time. So let's take a look at some rolling returns. First, this is the performance of the Midcap index, which is in blue, compared to the Nifty Next 50 in red and Nifty 50 in black since the bottom of the March 2020 crash, that is March 23rd, 2020. And you can see that since the start of this year, at least, the blue line, the mid cap, has pulled away from the other two indices. And that is also evident in the rolling returns, as we shall presently see. First, let's look at the 5-year Nifty versus Nifty Next 50 graph, and you can see over 5 years, for the last few months, the two indices have given similar returns, but that is not for the first time. That has happened just after the 2008 crash. Also, the 5-year returns of both indices were similar. And this is 5-year returns of the mid-cap in blue versus Nifty Next 50 in red. And you can see that more or less they have been the same over 5 years. There's this small recent outperformance of the Nifty Midcap 150. Over 6 years, you can see again the Nifty Next 50 has more or less given similar returns recently, and that has also occurred in the sideways market that existed after the 2008 recovery to before the 2013 bull run. Again, in 6 years, you can see the blue line, the mid cap, pull out above the Nifty Next 50, the red line, and that's for the first time in whatever history we have. That's pretty much never happened before. There has been some instances here, but that's during a bear market. But for the during a bull market, this is the first time the Nifty Midcap has bet the Nifty Next 50 over 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on durations. Again, over 7 years, you can see currently the Nifty Midcap, currently the Nifty Next 50 is above the Nifty 50, and but that's not been the case in the past. In the past, you can see in the sideways market I mentioned just before, again it has not outperformed the Nifty. So this is something that Nifty Next 50 investors should keep in mind. I mean, why would you invest in the Nifty Next 50 and take on additional risk if you are not going to if you're not going to get more returns? Please don't say diversification. Honestly, I mean, diversification is all right, but that doesn't mean you invest in a poor performer, right? I mean, that just makes no sense. So the point is that in the past, even over 7 years, maybe even 8 years, as we shall see, the Nifty Next 50 has not outperformed the Nifty 50. So you must be careful about that. So 7 years, you can see the blue line, the mid cap, pull out very nicely with respect to the Nifty Next 50. And this is over 8 years. And again, like I said, during the sideways period, it does not, the Nifty Next 50 has not bet the Nifty 50. I'm saying this only because today you can see the red line outperforming the black line consistently after that. But this situation can occur anytime in future, and you must be ready for it. And you can see over 8 years, again, the blue line now has a very clear outperformance. Only in the last few months. This is only probably since this year, but that's for the first time it has happened. And over 9 years, the Nifty Next 50 has comfortably bet the Nifty, but again during the sideways market, it could be a problem. And this is over 9 years for the mid cap versus Nifty Next 50. Again, you can see the recent outperformance. And finally, over 10 years, for whatever data we have, it is not much data, but for whatever data we have, the Nifty Next 50 has outperformed the Nifty 50. That's a reasonable odd. I mean, if I want to take on some risk, there must be a reasonable chance of that risk paying off, and that seems okay. It seems all right that the Nifty Next 50 would continue to beat the Nifty 50 reasonably, maybe not all the time, but at least reasonably over the long term, at least about 10 years. So there's no reason for you to stop the Nifty Next 50 just because it has been performing poorly. As long as your goal is far away, you can continue. But this outperformance of the Nifty Midcap that you see, which is for the first time, that may not last forever. I mean, today it's a bull run and it has happened. the trend could reverse. But the point is, you cannot expect to invest in an index that is the best. I mean, there will always be some other index that will outperform, and that's just an example of what it is. The problem is Nifty Midcap 150 as an index, as a product, has got problems because of its tracking error. I've shown it's got 2-3% or so tracking error. That's just silly. I mean, low expense ratio doesn't mean you're going to get more returns. Active midcap funds are also not doing well. So I recently showed that in that video. Active midcap fund managers are not able to beat the midcap index. So I mean, active midcap funds as well as the midcap index as of now does not make sense to me. If you want some kind of extra return over the Nifty for some additional risk, the Nifty Next 50 is the choice that you need to, in spite of its underperformance, it's still a reasonable choice. Of course, you have to pay the price for that risk. If you take on more risk, that means you have to face the risk. Whether you get the reward or not, the risk is guaranteed. So that's life. I mean, there's nothing, but it is curious that the midcap index has outperformed the Nifty Next 50 for the first time. What does this mean? Does it mean the Nifty Next 50, is it just a temporary thing, or is it because the market depth has increased and the Nifty Next 50 has become more of a large cap today? We don't know. We have to assume that can happen in future. I had already talked about why you should not expect double-digit returns from Nifty Next 50 all the time. That's true for even the Nifty. But we should anticipate that possibility that in future, the Nifty Next 50 can become more large cap like, and the returns can come down. Don't ask me, so why should I not invest in midcap 150 today? I mean, today it's a bad product. In terms of a product, the midcap 150 index is a bad product, and based on today's data, I would not put my money on it. That's what I can say.